got on the U.S. Olympic team, and our girls won as a gold and a silver. But all that comes from listening to you guys.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode of the Odd Tandem. I've known our guest today for a very long time. I'm sure most of the viewers and listeners have a pair of his socks. He's also a musician, and he just released a documentary film about the Tour of Flanders and the whole Flanders area in Belgium, which I suggest that you go and watch. It's called the Flandrien. We'll put it in the show notes because although our guest today does mention it in the podcast, it's a little bit long of an address to remember. But Jens, Shane Cooper, owner and founder of DeFeet. How did you enjoy that conversation we had with him today?
I loved so much all these different bits and pieces of his character. He fell in love with cycling in England. Then he traveled the East Coast, played music. Now he's somewhere in the middle of the US producing socks. He did a movie about Flandrians, like cycling and the cycling history in Belgium. Like, he's such a colorful personality. You just gotta love the man.
Yeah, you know, the fun part about doing this podcast is we can invite pretty much anyone that we want. And
Correct.
I just love sharing stories of the passion of cycling, not necessarily from the people that are totally in the trenches doing it or running it, but people that actually do it for a business and love it as much as we do. So sit back and relax and listen to our great conversation we had today with Shane Cooper. All right, classic season is approaching and cycling fans are prepping for one of the most exciting times of the year. Today, as our guest, we have one of the biggest cycling fans that I know, Mr. Shane Cooper. Welcome to the Odd Tandem.
I am so excited to be here, and thank you for allowing me to share the Spring Classic conversation with you.
Well, you know more about the Spring Classics than I do. You know, Jens did quite a few of them. But before we get started, we have this tradition of doing a quick fire session just to, kind of warm up the room a little bit. So quick questions, quick answers. You ready to go?
Ready when you are.
Should socks go over or under your leg warmers?
Well, it depends. If you're not wearing the Evojet, which is an aero sock, you put them under, absolutely under. But if you're wearing the aero sock, it goes over.
Okay, we're going to have to ask you more about that after this. Okay, what is your favorite classic to watch in person? Roubaix, Flanders, or a different one?
Flanders.
Flanders. Okay, let's stick with that theme then. What is your favorite Belgian beer?
Duvel.
I got to ask Jens real quick that question.
I guess I would go Leffe Blonde.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that. Can't. Westmalle triple for me. Yeah, good stuff. Okay, we didn't get to partake too much in the culinary delights in Belgium because we're always worried about our weight and stuff. But Shane, what is your favorite Belgian food or snack?
Well, the frites go a long way with the mayonnaise, but I don't even know what they call the and maybe Jens can tell me, the beef stew. The beef stew it's just beautiful. I don't know what it's called.
I know what you mean, but also I would have to look up the name. But I can picture it. I know exactly what you mean. Yes, it is pretty good actually, yes. From where are you actually talking to us? Are you back home or in your office or where are you right now?
I'm at the DeFeet Clubhouse here in Hickory, North Carolina.
And, okay, tell us a little bit about the clubhouse. Sounds kind of different than an office. So what do you got going on there?
Well, we have a lot of cycling cultural things going on. We have the bike races playing on our large screen TV. We have a beautiful coffee maker from Fame, and it's just absolutely gorgeous when you walk in, so you get free espressos. We have local beer provided for free to our guests that come and shop here at our DeFeet Clubhouse, which is a boutique that's decorated in cycling fun.
So you got, or Bobby introduced me to you, I believe, in 2004 or 2005 maybe. But back then you already had your company running and you were in cycling for a long time. When and how did you actually get infected with that cycling virus? As a child, as a young man, as a student? How and when did that happen?
I love that question, Jens. I remember I was in England and I was on the one of the motorways, and I looked over, and I was with my family. My father was driving. I was young. I looked over and I saw off a secondary road a group of cyclists. It must have been a race, and the fabric of the jerseys going down the road looked like a tapestry. And at that time, I've got chill bumps right now thinking about it, because that's when I got infected by the cycling bug.
And yeah, tell us, did you ever race yourself? I know you ride a lot. I've seen you and your wife riding all the time. Yeah, tell us a little bit about actually your riding in the sport.
I raced from 1987 until 1995, and I was perpetual Cat 3 in the U.S. I did go to the Masters National Championships 2 years, and 1 year I was being lapped by the winner, and if I was sprinted, I would have been in the photograph because he was breaking away from the field. But I really enjoyed bike racing in the U.S., and my wife also raced bikes, and she was much better than I was, and she could actually win, and I had lots of seconds but no wins. So.
And did you try track racing, mountain biking, or lately gravel as well? Or you focus now, it's just road cycling is my only cycling I love?
Well, road cycling was my love, but I did switch over to mountain biking at one point, as everybody did. But I continued to do both. But now I am absolutely deeply in love with gravel, and I've been doing that since it started to open up. So. Yeah, I did Unbound 2 years ago. I did Unbound, but only the 100-mile. Yeah, it was fantastic.
Only the 100-mile at Unbound. Okay, Jensi, you did the long one year, right?
Yeah, the 200. Mm-hmm. Yep. I just did beat the sunlight. I don't know, I believe just underneath 11 hours. Maybe I was 97th, just top 100. But good for me. When I was retired, and my first big long ride after that, I enjoyed it. We were lucky we had dry weather, so we could ride it all. Shane, when you did yours, did you have some river crossings as well? Because they were my highlight. There was a bit of currency, so you would have to lean against the currency in order to make it in a straight line across the river bed. If you would ride straight up, you would tipple over from the currency, right? You had something like that?
We had worse than that, Jens. We had 2 years ago, we had the mud walk 4 miles. And it was at mile 9. And the wheels locked up inside the frame so bad. Mm-hmm. I usually ride with my wife, and I'm there to help her. And if she has a problem, that's illegal, I think. But in this race, it was like... It was terrible, and I lost her in the mud, and I didn't see her again until the finish, and she was upset.
Well, Shane, there's so much to talk to you about, but I'm very interested to hear, because most people know about your sock company DeFeet. They're probably, over half of them are probably wearing a pair right now as they're listening to the podcast. But what prompted you? What is the genesis of the DeFeet story?
Well, I was somewhat of an oddball. I did have that cycling passion as a young man, and I became a musician and traveled the East Coast playing music, and that was my occupation for about 4 or 5 years. And during that time, I went to school at night for electronics. And my father brought our family to America for a company called Bentley, which is a sock knitting machine, and it was the best sock knitting machine in the world. And we came over for 2 years initially, and at some point in my life, everything came together. The background of socks from my family, the passion for cycling that I had, and what I learned in the band was how to manage people and how to market. You have to sell a band to have a job. And all those things came together, and I met my wife, most importantly, in 1992, and we got married in May, and I started DeFeet in October. But her part of the equation was she understood finance and the black and white. And so together, we were able to create a 33-year-old company now. So that's how it kind of all started. And I wake up every day absolutely blessed with health and with the job that I love.
Double question. First answer is easy. What type of music did you play? I have to ask. What type of music? And second, when you started the company, you started with socks only, or you went straight into arm warmers, leg warmers, gloves, or hats, or just socks at the first 1 or 2 years of your company? And what music did you play?
The music that we played was, unfortunately, we played cover songs like U2, REM, The Clash. But we were very good at that, and so that's what people want to hear. Unless you're really good, that you've got to be to make a lot of money playing music. Originally, it's very difficult, and it's like making the world tour. So we stuck to the covers, and we were. That was my occupation. It was a wonderful time. I wouldn't trade it for the world. In fact, I still play music, and I've got band rehearsal tonight. But coming back to your other question, Jens, thanks. That's very good. The Aerator was our first product, which was a cycling sock that was revolutionary. And we stepped into the arm warmer, then the Dura Glove, the Woolly Bully, and we created all these different products as we went along. And your team, when you're on CSC, you guys were using some of our products, and I believe you went to T-Mobile. Did you both go to T-Mobile or Telecom?
No, I went to Track Factory Racing, which is now Lidl Track.
Right.
And yeah, Bobby had 2 years or whatever at T-Mobile, I believe.
But you were at Credit Agricole, and we used with Roger Ligier.
At first.
Mm-hmm. And so all of our products, we made knickers, shoe covers, and so we opened up the door to make cycling more comfortable.
And that you did. So I believe I have a better timeline. So I got my first pair of DeFeet socks in 1994 with Chevrolet LA Sheriff.
That's right.
And I swear to God, I probably have them up in my attic, right? Like those socks just lasted forever. Then I contacted you in 1998, I believe, when I was on Team Cofidis. And that was, I've got a few visuals here. So this was the stage on the Galibier. I don't know if you could see that, but I have your arm warmers on, and then a black pair of socks that had it was like a bloodshot eyeball. And I honestly would use the different socks that you gave me depending on the mood that I was in. Here I have, this was one of the criteriums after the tour, and I have the USA flag, and I just happen to have that pair
of
socks
look at that.
Right there.
That's beautiful.
And it was really awesome to have that support from you at Cofidis. But then when I went to Credit Agricole, I asked you to do, hey, my guys are asking for some stuff. And lo and behold, the UPS guy unloaded his entire truck at my house. His entire truck. I mean, I had a very small house in Nice. Jens, you remember.
Yep.
And I had to stick it all in our laundry room. And I'm going through it. And it's knee warmers, arm warmers, gloves, socks branded in Credit Agricole, and then every other sock pattern you could possibly think of. And it was funny, after Paris-Nice, the guy, we would take, Jens, you came quite a few times, but the guys that would stay, we would take out to a Mexican dinner. And then the next day, or even that night before or after that dinner, they would come up and basically go through all those boxes. And I was just like, take as much as you want, because I need to get it out of my house. So I bet you there are dozens, if not more, guys that have those hand-me-downs from you giving them to me and me kind of passing them along. But the other pair, my last visual, is in 2004. I had a bit of a comeback season. I was third in Paris-Nice. I got a medal in the Olympics, and I was coming back to the U.S., and I felt like it was towards the end of my career, and I wanted to kind of give my fans that were going to be following me in the Philly race like a little memento. Do you remember these, the Bobby J fan club socks?
I do remember those.
So I asked you to, I feel like I was like a phoenix rising out of the ashes after, 4 years of just being total pack fill. And I still have this is probably the last pair, but
oh, wow.
Brand new.
Wow.
Brand new. And
wow.
I don't know how many pairs. I think, Jens, you've got a pair of these socks, right?
Yep, and I had the American flag ones. And a pair I remember is you made a special edition with a polar bear on it for Magnus Buxted when he won his first Tour de France stage in '98.
Yeah.
So I have a pair of them as well. And I swear, I just went running with my daughter like an hour ago with these pair of gloves on. Remember them with the little footprints?
Oh my God!
The little footprints on him.
That's hilarious.
And they must be 20 years old.
Yeah.
See, and they're still completely, perfectly intact and working.
Oh
so
boy!
Yeah, I just went running with them. They last forever.
That's
awesome.
We
Simply
should.
awesome.
Yeah, they should self-destruct at like 20 years.
That's what I'm getting at here. Like, wouldn't it be a little bit better, business model to basically have these things, get holes in them or something like that? So, I mean, this USA pair was from 1997 or 1998. I mean, and it's still totally fine. What are some of the other products that you made? Because there's one that I have still in my rain bag that has saved me many a time that I'm not sure if you're going to mention or not. But
well, you actually got the very first undershirt that we did, and you got it in 1998. And George Hincapie got one too, and you wore it on the climb, and he wore it in the heat. 2 separate days. You were up the top of a climb, and is that what you were talking about? The undie shirt?
The undie shirt, but there's one other thing. The deflector.
Oh, yeah. I remember the deflector. Yeah.
So, Yenzi, imagine a bib for a child, right? So you didn't have to put on a rain jacket. You just wanted to keep your chest warm. You didn't have to put on the whole rain jacket. So you could take it out of your pocket, very, very small, slip it over your helmet, put it underneath your chest like you would like a newspaper or something like that, and zip up your jersey. And it was just enough to, break the wind.
Yeah.
And I have that. And I was thinking, watching Paris-Nice this year, and listen, we all know what Paris-Nice is. Paris-Nice is a brutal race. You always have to contend with weather. And I was like, what did I have in my rain bag back then? Because all I could think of was these guys were basically hypothermic for most of the race, right? But yes, I had the Woolly Bully arm warmers, the Woolly Bully knee warmers, the deflector, the gloves, the Dura gloves, everything. And it was like, man, I've held on to that stuff for so long because it was just, I knew the conditions, if the conditions got bad, I put those on. So when you came up with your pattern or your material combination for the knee warmers and the arm warmers, how did you come up with that? Because it is obviously warmer than the stock standard stuff that we'd get from the sponsor.
Well, I think one really unique feature is they were seamless, right? They were made on a sock machine. They were circular knit. And the construction was that it didn't have a seam, and the fact that it fit very, very nice to your body. And the material that we used, we plated the polyester to the inside or the wool to the inside to give it a nice next to the skin feel. And those products are durable. And I still, today, we've got a new one called the Arm Skin Light, which is, I can wear the Arm Skin Light down to what I could wear the Arm Skin down to. A lot of people don't know about our accessories, Bobby, and that's some of the best value that we offer, to bike shops. I mean, bike shops should carry DuraGloves and like Jens was just showing, and the Arm Skin, because they're very affordable and they don't take up much shelf space. So, every rider needs it. Even in Texas and in Florida, you can have windy, wet conditions there as well. But I think the difference is we ride in our product in all conditions. We test it ourselves, and we listen to you guys.
That would be my next question. How do you get in contact with pro teams? You just travel to races in Europe? Go, hey, my name is Shane Cooper, and I have something interesting for you. Or is it just a word by mouth? The people go, hey, I know him. He could do this and this. Yeah. And then do you have special requests from pro teams to go, hey, make this longer, shorter, thinner, bigger material? And do they give you feedback? Do you ask them, hey, what exactly do you like on it, or what you didn't like? How is all that working in your relationship with pro teams?
It's very important, actually, for me personally, to get the top level feedback. We call you guys astronauts here. We feel that you're testing our product beyond what anybody could test it. The first pro athletes that I met were part of Bobby Julich's team. They were, let's see if I can remember who I met back then, Jim Copeland and Thomas Craven and Jeff Pierce. They were racing locally on Chevrolet LA Sheriffs, and we made their socks. And then the Tour de Pont came down through my home state, and I met Paul Willerton, who is still a business partner today, in a parking lot. He was on Subaru Montgomery, and Chris Sheehan on Team Saturn. And I walked up to him and gave him socks and told him to spiel, and I left my phone number on the bottom of the sock, and Paul Willerton called me. Well, Paul Willerton ended up racing for Team Z with Le Mans, so he introduced me to Le Mans, and then Roger Ligier. We go back to Museo, Cavendish, Tom Boonen, even Lance Armstrong. And, the socks started coming up the leg instead of, when you guys were wearing the shorties. But Greg LeMond wore the first 4-inch sock in the Paris-Roubaix in 1994 on Team Gann. So currently, Jens, we were on BMC when they won the yellow jersey with Cadell. We've gone fast forward, and today we're on Visma, and we're on Lotto, and we like those teams because they also have the women's teams as well. And so we get all the feedback from the athletes, and we constantly are changing it. And one of the crazy things is some of these athletes, and Cavendish was one of them, he could detect the slightest little variation in product. And that's where all that power transfers to the pedal. The last thing your skin touches is our sock. And so it's really important for us to make sure. And currently, the teams are going with the aerodynamic product, which we are the fastest in the world now. So,
okay, I've read about this sock. I've seen this sock in person. I've never put it on. You said that you work with Visma Lisa Bike and Lotto. Mm-hmm. And this past weekend, our American stud, Matteo Jorgenson, won Paris-Nice for the second time.
Yeah.
Did he have a pair of the Evojet socks on that final stage?
Yes, he did. Okay. Yes.
So tell us a little bit about this Evojet.
Well, we were working with Quick Step, the longest lasting team that we worked with. We started working with MAPE GB with Tony Rominger, and came all the way 25 years along with Quick Step. And at some point, companies started making a cut and sew product, and these track specialists were starting to use them in the track. And I heard all this rumbling about how aerodynamic they were. And so we went to the wind tunnel and tested the products that were out there with the competitors. And we made some socks for Alaphilippe. And next thing you know, I mean, I can't blame the socks, but he attacked and he won the yellow jersey and he's wearing this new sock we created. And that sock saved 7 watts over a bare leg. And this was tested by DeFeet in wind tunnels here in Charlotte. And then it was tested in Silverstone in London. It was tested by all the teams. And in fact, Team Lotto came to us for that sock. And that sock was traditionally made. It wasn't this cut and sew where they add the material to the top. We thought that the ones that were on the market were hideous, and we thought they were uncomfortable. Because to be fast, you have to be comfortable. So Victor Campenarts wanted us to go back to the wind tunnel with some new ideas. And that's when he was with Lotto. And we came out with a sock within 2 months, and we got it into Tour de France 3 years ago. And that sock is called the Evojet. And the wind tunnel results are 24 watts faster than a bare shaved leg. And the way they do that is this fabric technique right here. And we do a special little project to it to where we won't say what that is, but ours are different. So that's the Evojet. 24 watts. Bobby, you know helmets. You know helmets and you know wheels on what they save and how much they cost. We're right in that same ballpark for $60. Your foot is going forward and in a circle, right? So your head is just sitting here. So there you go. Evojet.
So 24 watts, that is a massive number because everybody else is working hard on it. So it's not that you come up against shit kickers. They're all good companies. They also have wind tunnel testing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I just found it hard to believe that is that much of a difference. I mean, could you put that into time? Let's say a 10-kilometer time trial or a 4-kilometer individual pursuit or 30-kilometer time trial. Do you know how much in currency of time you would save?
That's a good question. I do not know that, but I certainly could find that data out with all the people that have done the testing now. Even the U.S. Olympic team took them to Silverstone, I guess, early this year, and they called and they said we were 5% faster than anything they had. And that's including the shoe covers and everything. And so we got on the U.S. Olympic team, and our girls won as a gold and a silver, right? So,
Impressive.
Yeah.
Impressive.
Wow.
But all that comes from listening to you guys. That's what Victor Campenarts wanted. And he liked it so much, he helped us move over to Visma. Now he's with Visma.
Yeah.
And that looks a lot better than the bars moved in, right? Just wearing a nice pair of socks.
That's true. That's true.
Good point.
Yanzi,
That's a very good point.
Yanzi, Shane probably remembers this, but I had a pair of DeFeet socks in, I believe it was the 97 Tour de France. And Johan Museeuw was world champion. And I had the little American flag, and he comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, those are those socks from DeFeet." And I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Do you think they can make me a pair of world champion socks?" And I am like sweating bullets. Johan Museeuw is talking to me. Mm-hmm. And this was before cell phones and smartphones and stuff like that. And I said, "Yeah, I have his number." And the next day on a little tiny piece of paper, I wrote Shane's phone number and email address and passed it to Johan Museeuw, and the rest was history. I think that was kind of the beginning of the whole, affiliation with his teams, with Mape and whatnot, because I saw very soon after that he had a plethora of stuff. But listen, we love hearing the story about your socks and how great they are. I think everyone knows that. But the real reason why we wanted to have you on the podcast today is because on March 15th, just a couple days ago, you guys released a YouTube documentary, Flandrien. So tell us about the film Flandrien. because I watched it. That was not my thing, and I realize now that maybe I'm not a real bike racer because I didn't race the Flandrien Classics. But yeah, let's hear what's going on. What was your motivation behind that? Because you could really feel your passion for the classics and for Belgium by watching that.
Well, I think in my life, I've been a creator all my life, and I create from what comes to me. And with this film, Belgium was the first country to really embrace DeFeet and basically adopted us. And it's through the writers like Tom Boonen and Museau and Quickstep and Wilfred Peters, and the list is ginormous. And we just felt that love and that kindred spirit. And Western North Carolina is about the same size as Belgium, and we just I've been called a Belgium a lot the way I ride, but so I wanted to give them something, and I wanted to give Belgium a love letter. And so my business partner, Paul Willerton, the cyclist that was racing in the Pro Tours, and he's a photographer and a camera cinematographer, and I'm a sound guy and a producer and a creator. And we've produced several dramedies over the course of the last 6 or 7 years. And those dramedies are kind of like Wes Anderson style 7-minute films. And we wanted to get serious about it and create something that would live on in infamy, something like A Sunday in Hell. But one of the burning questions that Paul Willerton brought to the table was Ernest Hemingway traveled a lot over in Belgium and in France and in Spain, and he always wanted to write about the bicycle and the bicycle race, and he couldn't make a full effort at it for some reason. So we went over there with that question, and like Jacques Cousteau, we wanted to discover the underbelly of cycling and what it meant, but it was all focused on Flanders, and what the hell does it even mean to be from Flanders? And if you notice in the film, we don't even talk because the people that we interviewed told the story. And it was fascinating to me to learn what they had been through the wars. And Brick Scotte was an incredible first Flandrien, and I believe that story comes out. And so Paul and I ran around Belgium for a month, and we interviewed people every day, and we did everything in the film, every single thing and I even brought my music full circle into the film and made connections of musicians that were professional that also liked to cycle. So there's a lot of those connections inside the film.
Yeah, I love that you follow some big names. I mean, Ernest Hemingway and Jacques Cousteau, like they are legends of their domain. If you follow them, that's already a great start. Right, awesome. Right. I'm loving that.
Yeah.
I believe you probably had 100 hours of material, right?
Yeah.
Was it hard, or was it really, really hard to cut things down, to bring it down to the lengths you needed to make it? Was that a super hard job?
I think that is a hard job because Paul Willerton has got to create a story, and he can narrate, right? You could narrate and tell the story, or you could let the film tell the story, and he did a wonderful job with that and got the right storyline. And I think the hardest part, Jens, was being with Paul, my best friend in the world, and we're in Belgium, and we're struggling with each other every day. We're in a small room. Coming home from filming, we had to charge our cameras. We had to download the content into 3 different hard drives to make sure we had redundancy. And everything had to be charged and ready to go the next day. And these interviews were happening. A lot of them were scheduled, but some of them were just happened. And that was the hardest thing, is every day was like a stage race. And, we're the best of friends, but that was a very, very difficult effort, I tell you. And we were so excited to enter it into the film festivals the next year. And it won the best documentary in Barcelona. It went to London. It went to Mexico City, Montreal. It went all over the world. And, we were really, really honored and shocked at the same time.
So how do our viewers and our listeners watch this? And what is the easiest way? We can put something in the show notes as well.
Yeah, the easiest way for them would be to go to defeet.com/collections/Flanders-film-products. That's the easiest way for them to see them. And I know that's a lot to type, but when you get to that website, if you enter your email address, you can enter to win lots of incredible prizes. We're even giving away a 3-night stay at the Flandrien Hotel. We've got lots of socks to give away, and we've joined with some local companies. Cane Creek, which is a bicycle component manufacturer in Asheville, are giving away a seat post and a stem that absorb shock. And we've got hand-up gloves down in Tennessee. They're going to be giving gloves away as prizes. So that's the easiest way for you to see it. Or go to YouTube and type in Flandrien, I suppose. But that way you can't enter the contest either way.
Now, the name or the title of the movie is Flandrien. You used the word a few times. Maybe you take a minute to explain to our viewers and listeners what it means, Flandrien, because it is far more than just an inhabitant of the country of Flanders, right?
Yeah.
It is it's like a badge of honor. And not every cyclist is called a Flandrien or is qualified to be a Flandrien. It is a badge of honor, isn't it? Maybe you explain that a little bit to our viewers.
I think I would do my best, but I think to really understand what a Flandrien is to watch the film. But it basically is character. It's the character of hard-working people with ginormous hearts. And if you go to Belgium, and if you like bicycles, you've got friends everywhere you go. And they love Americans. If you go to a bar and speak, it might be the last place Americans are welcome, actually. But they do. They love Americans, and the people are wonderful. I mean, and what they went through, Jens, to have that spirit. The wars, they were right in the middle of all the wars that were going on in World War I and World War II. And they took it right there. And I think Brugschkotte is probably the best example. And the example that Alan Piper, who's in our film, gives is Brugschkotte was a bricklayer, I believe, or a farmer. I forgot which. I think it was a farmer. And his father didn't want him to race bicycles. And so he rode his bicycle to a big race. And I think it was, it may have been Paris-Roubaix.
It was Paris-Roubaix.
And he won, and he rode home with the flowers on his back. I mean, it's just like, God, yeah. So, the Belgian people, I call it, and maybe I'm wrong in saying this, but it's like the motherland of cycling. If you go to France, there's a lot of other things that go on. But if you go to Spain, there's beautiful cycling in both places. Germany is beautiful. All these countries are beautiful, England. But if you go to Belgium, cycling is the sport of the people.
100%. I mean, you feel it when you go there. So many of our staff members on all the teams, they were Belgian and very, very proud. I remember so many of the athletes, the Belgian athletes, would stay in Belgium all year. They wouldn't go to Monaco or someplace sunny. They stayed there because that was them.
Yeah.
But for the people that haven't had the opportunity to go and watch a classic like Tour of Flanders, can you kind of explain to us, our viewers and our listeners, what it feels like, what that weekend kind of encompasses? Like I said before, I never raced Tour of Flanders. I went there one time as a wheel guy and, on the side of the road with water bottles and stuff like that. But then a couple years ago, I got to go over and do the Flanders Fondo. I believe it was on the Saturday. And then we stayed around up on the tent area on the Quaremont. and watched, I think they did 3 laps around that, and then the women came around as well. And it was, talk about having the hair on your arm stand up. It was a huge party, number one, but everybody there, from the grandpa to the grandma to the little nieces and nephews and little kids running around, they had more knowledge of the sport of cycling than I think I had. And I was a professional for 16 years. But what is so special about the Tour of Flanders?
Yeah, I don't know. We experience it all together, right? If it's raining, we feel the rain. We smell the pig muck on the cobbles. You smell the massage oil. All these senses, and when you're there deep in it. And in Belgium, if you know somebody, you can see the race at several different places. It's such a small area. Yeah, I guess it's the fact that we're immersed in it. You can reach out and touch the athlete. It's just the excitement. Like you said, Bobby, it's everybody. It's everybody there. And it's contagious, right? It's contagious. And, they do sports betting too, and that the alcohol, all the wonderful things.
Every time I watch Flanders, I did it twice as a cyclist. Now I'm watching and commentating on the race. Every time I see Flanders, I have to think of Woodstock or Glastonbury, like some of the big outdoor concerts where everybody just comes together. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter what nations you're from, what God you believe in. Everybody's just there for one happy reason. Yeah, Woodstock for the music and Flanders for cycling. And to confirm that cycling Belgium is the motherland, the most famous Belgian person ever is a cyclist. It's Eddie Merckx. Yeah. In the US, it's George Washington, or some inventor, or Ernest Hemingway. In Germany, it's probably Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, a poet. But in Belgium, it is Eddie Merckx, a cyclist, the most famous Belgian in history. I believe it is the motherland of the sports, and I actually came up with the name. It's a Flemish stew. The food you talked about, the Flemish stew, that's what it is. And are we going to see you this spring at any place in Belgium, for Roubaix, for Flanders, or any of the other classics, maybe Liège-Bastogne-Liège, which is also a pretty cool race?
Well, we're probably not this year. We are working on another documentary, actually a couple of ideas that we have going around, but that would probably be at the Amstel Gold if we were to make it. My wife and I did come over and we accomplished the Flandrien Challenge 2 years ago. And so we got to ride all those. The Flandrien Challenge is incredible. You can come over anytime to Belgium and you can ride, I think it's 450K. They give you 72 hours to do it. And you have to complete it on Strava, and then you get a little brick that you put it on your refrigerator. But I'd love to come over and do that again. That was quite incredible. One day was 10 hours on the bike. We were in Spain this year, Jens, and went to the training camps to do all of our interviews and measurements with the riders. And probably this year we'll be at Sea Otter. I wish it were different. But our new documentary that we're working on, we've got to get funding for it. It's not very cost effective. So it takes a lot of money.
I can imagine. I mean, how long did you say that you were over there filming the Flandrien?
We were there for right at 30 days. So, we had a lot of support coming in from one of the yarn companies that we work with that makes recycled water bottles into yarn, Reprieve Unified. They helped us get there. And believe it or not, Flanders Tourism helped us. And that was really cool because they wanted Americans to see, what the Flanders was all about. And Jens, they want tourists to come not just for the classics, but to come and ride the same roads that these famous races are on,
Yeah, it is definitely one of my top 2 races to watch on TV. But riding some of those cobbled climbs for the first time in the Flanders Fondo was absolutely unbelievable. But I had as a question about that recycled plastic being woven into socks. Mm-hmm. When I think of plastic, I don't necessarily think of a sock. Mm-hmm. So how is that recycled plastic bottle turned into a sock from DeFeet?
Basically, they take all pure bottles, and actually we're doing all this in the U.S. now, actually down in North Carolina in Greensboro. They take all the clear plastic bottles and they chop them up, and then they heat it into a pellet, okay? And then it gets put into another heating element like a shower head, and it melts through the shower head. And so these long strings come out, and those are chopped into fiber, which is twisted together. And so that is taking all those bottles that are thrown away and turning it into a product that can last 20 years with Bobby wearing them. And, I mentioned Jacques Cousteau, Jens, because I was a big fan, and we think Mother Earth deserves a big hug from us all. And so we try to do our best, whether it's our sustainable wool practices, where we're buying wool from Oregon and having it all dyed in the U.S., or it's our recycled poly. And we've got some new exciting things where even our nylon's going to be recycled in Virginia. So we try and keep it all local. We're just a little micro soccery. We're 30 employees. We love pro cycling. One of my managing directors, Paul Whitener, watched the Pyrenees for the first time this weekend, and he was so excited to see our sock won. How cool is that? And on an American. So
that is pretty cool. Hey, since you have this creative touch, with the documentary you're designing, if one day one of these pro teams comes and goes, Shane, here's a white sheet of paper, design our next jersey, go wild, go crazy, whatever you want, it's all yours. Ooh. How would your dream cycling kit look like? You wouldn't have any idea. Would it have dragons on it?
No, it'd probably look like that.
There you go.
That's what it would look like right there. I love that kit. That would be hard to beat for me. That was so 1980s, but would it have a dragon? I don't know. That's a good question, Jens. Yeah.
For our listeners, Shane just held up the old classic Mape casquette, and that was a very colorful jersey, to say the least. But it was original. We haven't really seen jerseys like that in a while, and that's definitely a good one. Shane, we're getting towards the end of our podcast here. I'm going to ask Jens this question. I'm going to answer it, and then I want you to answer it because you've made socks for 33 years now. Jens, what is your favorite design of a DeFeet sock?
I believe, on top of my head, it was the American flag. The ones that you had, and you gave me a few of them, because they were white with the American flag, eye-catching. So many people ask me, hey, where are they from? And why are you wearing an American flag? So they were so iconic. They were definitely an eye-catcher and would break the ice, and people would start talking to you. I would even wear them out in town, in summer with shorts, and then have these pair of socks in my sneakers. People go, wow, where the heck did you get these socks from?
Two favorite ones. The one with the bloodshot eyeballs that I would use on rainy days. But you made a sock that was a copy of the pattern of the old La Vie Claire jersey.
Ah, yes.
Those were baller. That was my favorite jersey growing up. I don't know what American got into cycling in the late 80s with Greg LeMond and Bernard Hinault and that famous La Vie Claire pattern. And I think it was designed by an artist, the block.
Mondrian. That's a Mondrian.
Mondrian.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, I still have a pair of those, and I wear them from time to time. But, this young generation, they don't really know what that is anymore. So, Shane, what was your favorite sock that you ever did? Because one time you told me, Bobby, we could put anything on the side of a sock. We could take a picture of your face and put it on the side of the sock. So I'm not sure if that's exactly true, but what was the favorite sock that you designed over the years?
Well, I guess it would be this one. The Flandrien. This, if you look close, there's the capital on the top of the mur, and you can see the cobbles inside. This is my favorite sock. This is the Evojet, the latest, greatest sock, fastest sock in the world. And these can be won on the DeFeet website.
Sean, it was an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thanks a million for giving us the time, taking time away from you got a band rehearsal coming up later, right? You told us?
Yeah. We've got to hit it.
Thanks a million one more time for being our guest and spending an hour with us talking about your history, your love for cycling, your movie, The Flandrien, and of course, how your company started. Thanks a million one more time.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here. And I hope everybody goes to watch The Flandrien on our website. And best of luck to win the wonderful prizes that we're going to be giving away the entire week between Flanders and Roubaix.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching the podcast. If you enjoyed our chat with Shane today, why not check out our chats with other cycling innovators like Robbie Ketchel and Chris Boardman by clicking here.
And please remember, you can sign up to our Patreon to get an ad-free version of the podcast like these great people.